Hello and welcome to some e-learning notes. Our plan for today was to look at the area of circles. It was already designed to be a pretty quick lesson, so hopefully this doesn't take too long and you can get your assignment done with ease. So area of circles. Now, just like we had a special formula for the perimeter of a circle, now just kind of side note for review here, special name for perimeter of a circle was circumference. And that formula was C equals 2 times pi times the radius. So they gave you the radius in the problem. You did that times 2 times pi. You can multiply in any order. Now there is a special formula also for the area of a circle. Now there's no special name. It's still just area. But your A for a circle equals pi times r squared. Now it is important you follow your order of operations and do your radius squared first, then take that multiplied by pi. With our answers, since we are multiplying by pi here, all of your answers are going to come out to big long decimals. I always want you to round to the nearest tenth. Remember, that is one number after the decimal place. So to decide whether you keep it or raise it, you look at the second number, but you only write one number. Okay, so example 1, pretty straightforward. We have our radius of 6 centimeters. Remember, radius is from the center out to the edge. So 6 is going to be our r. And to fill in our formula then, A equals pi times r squared. We're looking at pi times 6 squared. And 6 squared is 36, so this is pi times 36. And we'll just bring the calculator out and say pi times 36. So we're looking at 113. And we do have some decimals. We're going to look at the first decimal place. It says 0, so we're either going to write 0 or 1. To decide that, remember we look at the second decimal place. The 9 is bigger than 5, so we're going to round it up to 13.1. Then since this is still an area calculation, an area is a square unit of measure, since that says centimeters, our unit will be centimeters squared. Now our second example is a little different. Notice the 22 that they gave us goes all the way across. 22 is what's called the diameter. A diameter goes all the way across the circle going through the middle. But our formula just needs radius, which is from the center out to the edge. So what we have to do, if you're given the diameter, you have to cut it in half or divide it by 2 to get the radius. So our radius here is 11. Now that we have the actual radius, not just whatever random number they gave us, has to be the radius. Now we can use our formula. So area equals pi times, that looks like minus, times radius squared. So we're looking at pi times, and if you don't remember what 11 squared is, that's okay. You can use your calculator. 121. Multiply that by pi. So we get 380 point something. It's either going to be 0.1 or 0.2. Oops. And I see that the second number, the one in the hundredths place, is a 3. That's less than 5, so we will keep the 1 as it is. And then this was meters, so our area is meters squared. All right, so take a minute. If you didn't get all of that copied down, pause the video, get these copied down as examples. They will help you with your assignment. But I'm going to move on to example 2. And this is where a lot of you were kind of struggling yesterday with our triangles. When I give you the area, how do you find the missing measurement? Now, in this case, we know the area. That's why it's the shaded in part. We don't know the radius yet. So my advice, anytime you're given area of anything and it tells you to find the missing measurement, this one specifically says find the radius, but instead of just doing some calculations, I really encourage you to use the formula. So I always write out the formula and then fill in the pieces that I know. I know a lot of you don't when you're doing the more straightforward examples like we did in example 1. But on these where you have to work backwards, it really, really does help. So our formula says that area of a circle equals pi times radius squared. Then what we know here, we know the area is 1,763 square feet. So what I'm going to do is fill that in for A. So now I have 1,763 equals pi times r squared. Now remember, pi is a number. We can divide by pi. You're not going to want to do that by hand, but you have a calculator. Even if your handheld calculator is at school, you should have an iPad, or if you left your iPad at school and you're looking at this on just your parents' computer or something like that, just grab a Google calculator, whatever you need. We'll do 1,763 divide by pi, and we get 561. Now, we're not to our final answer yet, so I'm going to write down all of my decimals until I get to a 0. Usually, if you get to a 0 in your decimals, then the rest of it's small enough it doesn't matter too much. But I'm not rounding to the nearest tenth yet. I'm saving that step for the very, very end. So I have 561.18 equals radius squared. Now, I don't want radius squared, though. I want the plain old radius. Whoops. I want something that equals r. So you have to remember with these that we're always doing the opposite. So just like this said pi times r squared and we decided to divide by pi, this says r squared. So to get rid of that squared idea, we have to take the square root. So if I take the square root of r squared, that will equal the square root of 561.18. And the square root of r squared is r. So now up here, I'm just going to hit square root 561.18. And we get 2, 3. Now, we are at the final step here. We're equaling r. So I see the 6. Remember, we're rounding to the nearest tenth, so I have to decide if that's going to be a 6 or a 7. I look at the next number. It's an 8. That is bigger than 5, so 23.7. Now with the units here, remember a radius is just a length from the center out to the edge. So we're not using square units anymore. This is just going to be plain old feet. And that would be our answer. On Desmos, we could have done a square root of this fraction here. The 1,763 over pi, but we need to plan ahead for that. Notice if I just hit square root here, even if I go in front, if I just hit square root, it doesn't automatically put my fraction underneath it. So if you're doing your division first, you'll have to retype your number. If you plan ahead, we can do square root and then put our fraction underneath the square root sign. But it's definitely take some planning ahead. If you're ready for that, that's fantastic. But if you're going step by step, you can still do it. You just have to retype the number. Okay, then we have one more just for balance. We had 2 of the first type of examples, so we have 2 of this one. So remember, anytime you're given the area, I encourage you to write out the actual formula instead of just trying to think through the steps in your head. Now, I know our area is 3.14 square inches, so I'm going to put that in for A. And then you can come to your calculator. We're going to do 3.14 divided by pi, which some of you might already be seeing what's going to happen here. So we got 0.9994930. I'll go ahead and write 0.999 here, but really this was trying to get us to 1. If you take pi and round it to the nearest hundredth, you get 3.14. You guys know that. But when we go to take the square root of this, we get, again, basically 1. Actually, it's really close to the exact same thing, isn't it? If we do the square root of the entire thing, 3.14 divided by pi, again, that's 0.999. The thing they were going for here, and especially if we round to the nearest tenth anyway, so if we do the square root of both sides here, our calculator said this comes out to 0.999 equaling r. But remember, we're rounding to the nearest tenth. So when we look at that 9, it's either going to be a 0.9 or it's going to round up to 1. Since this 9 is bigger than 5, we're going to get 1 equals r. Forgot my units. The original area was inches squared, so this is going to be plain old inches, because this is just radius. And there you go. That's all we have for our circles today. So be sure you double check the PDFs on the agenda page. There is an assignment. Let me show you how to get that assignment into your iPad so you can use Notability or something else. I'm going to show you how to put it into Notability here. So pause the video for a minute if you need, or split screen, or picture-in-picture, whatever you need to do so that you can pull that PDF and be able to work on this on your own, even if you don't have a printer. All right, so the first step is to get back into your Google Classroom and go to whichever class you're in. I'm going to use first period right now, but you all have the same agenda page and everything. So our stream is not what you need. Classwork as usual. So you're going to go to our daily agenda for January 27th when I'm making this video. This isn't published yet because it doesn't have the video yet. But it does have the PDFs. Now your screen will look a little different than this because this is still my draft. But that 127 area of circles, that's the one we need. It should pull up a preview of the PDF. So if you look, it's just 6 questions like the triangles assignment was. But what you'll need to do is find how to send this to an app that you can write on. So I like Notability, and I think you use this one on the far right, the square with the diagonal arrow. Just kidding. That takes you into Google Workspace. Okay, so use the square arrow with the square with the straight up arrow. That's the one that gives you your options on where you want to take this. Now, I recommend sending it to Notability because it's nice and easy to write on it. It saves the PDF. Then you can split screen with your Google form later. So you can, I would say, create a new note so it doesn't get lost with something. It'll give it the same title that we have, so 127 area of circles. That'll make it really easy to find. Then you just say import. It'll say, oh, it's sent to Notability. Now, it doesn't automatically open Notability, though. So then you'll have to go to your app switcher or back to your home screen, find that blue app with the pencil icon. You can see it at the bottom right of my screen. Then if you've already been using Notability, it'll take you to whatever note you were last working on. If you haven't used it yet, it'll walk you through some features. But eventually you should end up at a screen like this where you've got maybe some folders over on the left-hand side, but you'll definitely at least have this area of circles PDF there. So then you just open that, select a pen up at the top, and then you can start writing A equals pi times r squared. Write out your answers, and then you can split screen with your Google Forms if you need to. Now, if you have a printer at home, obviously that would probably be easier. Just have a parent print this for you, or you print it. I don't know what your rules are at home. But on paper, I think it is easier. We just didn't get them handed out yesterday because I had no idea that we would be missing school today. So there you go. If you have any questions, I will be available by email all day long. Well, all school day long. So let me know if you work on missing work. That's fantastic. But today was designed to be a little bit of circle notes and then finish your circle and triangles assignment. If you feel like you're really, really struggling and you need a Google Meet so that you can actually have a conversation with me, that is fine. Just let me know. we'll find a time that works for both of us. I'll try to make it as quickly as possible after you let me know that you need it, but we'll make sure that we can get that covered. I don't know if I'll be able to share screens. I've never tried a Google Meet at this school, so I don't know what all the permissions and things are, but we can at least talk about things. I can look at my PDF while you're looking at yours, and we can get something figured out. So have a great e-learning day. Good luck with all your other classes. Let me know if you need anything, and I'll see y'all on Monday.